we forget that we actually have to put ourselves out there. And some of the people that talk about being safe the most have turned out to be some of the most unsafe people in my life, because they want a safe place, but they don't necessarily want to extend the grace to other people and to choose to be safe.
Hello again, and welcome to part 3 of Hidden Treasures Q&A. I'm Ken.
And I'm Brian. So Ken, Pastor Becky preached on Sunday. Did you have any takeaways from that message?
Yeah, I enjoyed the overarching theme of it, which is wise living is making one small decision at a time. I think that's a good kind of rule to live by.
Yeah, it's a lot less overwhelming when it's like I just have to worry about one small thing.
Especially the small decision at a time. I enjoyed how she talked about the construction of Proverbs 31 being an acrostic poem, which I'd never thought about, using the Hebrew alphabet.
Yeah, that was new to me as well, and very helpful in understanding why there's so many different things on that list in Proverbs 31 of what wisdom looks like.
And then she said that she's a structure person, which I can relate to, but just knowing that how it was built would have resonated with the reader at the time based on just implementing the Hebrew alphabet. And I don't remember that being talked about in sermons where it was talking about the Proverbs 31 woman, and I was there for some of the ones on Mother's Day that Becky alluded to. So Pastor Becky did a great job.
She did, yeah.
Enjoyed it. And on that point, a lot of you sent in questions. We have quite a few to get to, so we should probably get into it.
Let's do it.
Say? All right.
Yeah.
The iPad is back this week. Here we go. Question number 1. Is wisdom an actual spiritual person in itself? We see in Proverbs that Solomon describes wisdom as a her.
Yeah, so one of the challenges with understanding the Bible is we have all these different types of literature. There's some history in there, there's some prophecy, there's poetry. Then you get books like Habakkuk or Habakkuk, depending on how you want to pronounce it, that are, it's a song and it's prophetic. You don't find out it's still a song till the very last verse of the book, but it's a challenging thing to look at. And so Proverbs is wisdom literature, which is a whole nother category. And we can get caught up in trying to take the Bible literal, but there's so much in the book of Proverbs that's metaphor, that's trying to give us descriptive language to help us think about real world problems. And one of the techniques that's used in the book of Proverbs is personification. And almost every culture has an aspect of personification. If you think about the story of Narcissus from Greek literature, they're personifying this idea of falling in love with yourself. And so wisdom is personified in the book of Proverbs to help us understand what Proverbs looks like and its availability. But there's other things that are personified in the Bible as well. I mean, death is talked about as if it's a person, but I do not believe that death is a person. And so in this case, it's using a literary technique to help us understand what wisdom is.
Right. And I also watch the sermon from Sunday that Pastor Becky did a great job, but she did mention that, the personification exists in 8 and chapter 9 as well in a very different way, but I'm not going to give away what anyway, she had a good bit with that. Speaking of Pastor Becky, on to question 2. Becky said wisdom is the result of one small decision at a time. Can you give some practical modern day examples of what that looks like on a busy or stressful day?
I mean, to continue to make small decisions in the right direction, you have to really know where you're going. It's like if you know how to get to work, you have to continually make the decisions to make the same turns over and over again. And maybe you're left with a whole bunch of different options on how to get to work, but you have to make those decisions. But before you can make those decisions on whether you're turning left or right, you have to know where you're going. And so what are your goals for life? What is it that you want to accomplish? And then you line your decisions up so that you can meet those goals. You have to have some focus, some drive, some direction before you can set up the decisions that you're going to make. So really what it comes down to is, where do I believe that God's leading me? And now how do I get there? Those are the decisions that are most important. Those are the places where I need to be applying wisdom in my life the most, wherever God has told me to go.
Okay. Next question. How do we keep from getting overwhelmed by our many daily choices and instead focus on making the next right small decision?
There is this thing called decision fatigue. A lot of people talk about having decision fatigue, but unless you're the CEO of a company, you probably don't actually have that. You're probably just tired and need to make a decision to go to bed earlier. But I like to, it's a real thing. I like to, how can I make a bulk choice? You know, like when you go to the store and you buy, 30 jars of mayonnaise at Costco, or wherever you go, where you're buying in bulk. So what decisions can I make in bulk? I've recently made a decision that I'm not gonna do any snacking unless it's fruits or vegetables. I'll let myself have something that's healthy for me, but I'm just done grabbing cookies.
Yeah.
I'm done. So I don't have to continually make the decision not to grab a cookie. I've made the decision that unless I'm at a party for the holidays, some special event, my bulk decision is I'm done snacking. And so what decisions can you just go ahead and make? Say you do have multiple ways to get to work. Make the decision to go a specific way. Unless there's an accident or some other unforeseen thing comes up and you have to change your route, just make a bulk decision to go the same way every time. What decisions in your life can you just decide that you're picking and moving forward? Obviously, I think when we're talking about wisdom, you have to leave room for your life to adjust, right? And there may be a time where you have to reevaluate some of your decisions, but any time that you can make a bulk decision, make a large, this is what I'm choosing, that eliminates all these other things that can come up. That way you're making less decisions because you've already made a bunch of decisions up front. And then it's just a matter of discipline and sticking with that.
We just call that managing the decisions.
Yeah, managing decisions. There you go.
Okay, here we go. If wisdom is built on small choices, how do we recover from making a bad choice without feeling like we failed completely?
I think the first thing you have to do is understand that failure is an event, not a person. If you screw up, you're not a failure. You may have failed, you may have made a poor decision, but you're not a failure. It's something that has happened, and now you have to decide to change course, to go back in the direction that you were trying to go. The people who are the best at recovering from their mistakes are the people who take ownership in their mistakes. So if you come up with all these reasons why you did something wrong, all these other people that are to blame, you're not taking any actual ownership in the mistake. And so if you can take ownership in what you've done, after realizing that this was a one-time choice, hopefully, even if it's a series of mistakes that led to something, okay, I see my error. I see what I did wrong. Yes, there were other people involved, but this is how I can own what I did wrong. That's the key to overcoming moments of failure, is to take ownership, even if you were just a part of the failure. Take ownership, make a plan to move forward. If you've worked really hard to get out of debt and then you made a terrible financial decision. Okay, so what were the positive steps that I was taking before I screwed up? Get back on track, take ownership of the moment, take ownership of the mistake, and move forward. You can't allow yourself to get stuck, and you can't allow yourself to be a victim. You've got to choose to take ownership in your failure.
Okay. Well, getting unstuck sometimes is a hard thing to
Yeah.
do.
Oh, it can definitely be hard.
Okay. Next question. Becky mentioned the passage is an acrostic showing a complete picture of wisdom. How can we embrace that idea of completeness without turning it into another checklist for our lives?
And so this is referring back to Pastor Becky's message on Proverbs 31, which is this big whole long list that people set as standard, really usually not for themselves, but for other people. Yeah. So it's like, here's this checklist in the person that I want. I'm not living up to this, but they need to. Part of that is our Western thinking. So we approach things in the West as right or wrong, yes or no, complete or incomplete. But that's not really how the Bible is set up. It's more set up in talking about postures and directions. And one of the things about Proverbs 31 is it's not talking about somebody who's 18. You know, they've got kids, they've got a life that's been established. Right. They've been at this wise living for a really long time. So the question is not, do I have everything checked off? It's, am I moving in this direction? Am I directionally positioned myself so that if I had eternity to get this figured out, would I be at least heading in the right direction? And so much of life is just changing our posture and changing our direction. And so I think Proverbs 31 is a good direction for all of us, whether you're a man or a woman, to be facing that direction. Am I moving in this direction? Are my choices leading me to success in how life really works?
Okay, here we go. The sermon mentioned knowing ourselves and knowing God. What are some practical steps to grow in self-awareness about our weaknesses without becoming discouraged?
Well, I think you have to surround yourself with people that are further along in life than you are, and that you've given permission to speak into your life. I think everybody should get a mentor. I think everybody should have a spiritual director or someone that they've brought along into their life to help them grow and to be continually moving into maturity. You have to, at some point, if you want to grow, have people come alongside you. I mean, we call this discipleship in the church, but you have to choose to give permission to somebody to speak into your life. You have to choose to let somebody say hard truths to you. You have to be willing to be critiqued. Yeah. And that's a challenge for most people. So get a mentor.
Get a mentor. That's the
mentor. Yep. That's
because you have to share the junk in your life that maybe you don't want.
That's right.
You don't want people to know sometimes. You mentioned needing community and accountability. How do you suggest finding safe people to be vulnerable with about your struggles? All right, so that's kind of a follow-up to what we were just talking about.
Yeah, and this is tricky because not everybody's safe, and so we're constantly doing the math. Like, is this person safe? Is this group safe? And I think so often we're looking at other people to figure out if they're safe or not, that we stop being safe.
Interesting.
That we kind of prejudge people. And what I think more people need to do is choose to be vulnerable. Rather than looking for safety, look to be vulnerable. And the challenge with that is that vulnerability isn't saying things about myself. It's being woundable. So one time I was preaching, and in part of my sermon, I was confessing to the entire church. You know, I yelled at my newborn son because he was crying. Like, I'm overtired, I'm losing it, I am not functioning as I'm supposed to. And I shared this moment that I was embarrassed of. Uh-huh. And somebody came up afterwards and was like, "How dare you yell at that precious little boy?" I'm like, I was being vulnerable. Really? How dare you come and confront me on it? I knew I was wrong. I was confessing that. But I realized, like, if as a leader I'm going to model vulnerability, that means I'm woundable. And this person came up and wounded me You know, I'm already dealing with my self-doubt and all these different things. I was already wounded because I knew I was wrong. But we have to, if we want safe places to be vulnerable, we have to choose to be vulnerable. We are often so focused on if other people are safe, we forget that we actually have to put ourselves out there. And some of the people that talk about being safe the most have turned out to be some of the most unsafe people in my life, because they want a safe place, but they don't necessarily want to extend the grace to other people and to choose to be safe. And so if we all start moving in the direction of being safe, then there's more safe places for other people to be vulnerable. Now, I'm not saying that there's not unsafe people out there. And usually you can pick up pretty quick on if somebody is safe or not.
Okay.
But you have to apply some wisdom to this.
That's why we're talking about wisdom.
That's right.
Okay. How can you tell the difference between the voice of God on your own, especially when they both sound or seem good, or the right answer?
Yeah, and so that's true. Sometimes our own voice, our own mind can sound kind of like God's, or at least in our heads, it seems like I can't tell the difference. And hopefully that maybe starts to happen a little bit more and more as we become better disciples of Jesus. But our own voice usually talks to us about ourselves a lot. I deserve this. I need this. You know, like it's our own voice when talking to ourselves talks about ourselves a lot. Now, God also talks to us about ourselves, but it's always in a way that is uplifting, leading us in the right direction, and it always lines up with Scripture. God's voice never contradicts Scripture. That's one of the reasons why He preserved it for us, is so that we can discern whose voice is in our head. Is this coming from God, or is this coming from myself, or is it coming from someplace else? Because there's a whole nother set of voices that we don't really have time to get into all of this. But you know, we love to talk about ourselves. Sometimes it's self-condemning, but we also really love to build ourselves up. And God builds us up, but He does it in a way that leads us to Jesus. God's voice is always leading us to Jesus.
And that was our final question.
All right, thank you guys so much for tuning in again. We look forward to being with you again next week. Hope you have a great week. Check out Pastor Becky's sermon from Sunday and tune in this Sunday. We've got some more Proverbs coming for you. Have a great time.
See ya.